afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us for AustCham's webinar, today coming to you with business engagement through sport. We're doing this in partnership with the Victorian government and AFL Asia Thailand Tigers. I'd like to start by thanking our co-hosts of this webinar, who are the Indonesia Australia Business Council, Malaysia Australia Business Council, ANZ Cham Philippines, and AustCham Singapore. This webinar has come about from earlier this year in April 2022, with the strong support of the Victorian State Government. The inaugural SportNXT Business Conference was held in Melbourne, bringing together 75 international sports leaders to share their insights on major issues and opportunities facing the global sports industry. From this, we decided to contact Global Victoria and ask them to tell us how they're exporting their sports expertise and innovation globally, and how businesses in Australia, Thailand, and all throughout Southeast Asia can explore the opportunities available. Our speaker, Rebecca Hall, Commissioner for Victoria to Southeast Asia, will share her experiences from the SportNXT conference and present potential investment and collaboration opportunities for businesses in the sports industry. Can we say hello to Rebecca first? And we'll pass over to Rebecca for her presentation on sports.
Thank you so much. Firstly, Brendan, and to the Chamber, thank you for partnering with us in this conversation, and also great to see so many chambers from across the region engaged. To our audience, thank you for joining us and for your interest in sport. I don't usually come to presentations, even if they are sport presentations, with my colours literally on my sleeve or on my shirt, but I did see today, 1st of September, in addition to being, I think, Vietnam National Day, our team in Vietnam is on leave, it's also Wear Your Colours Day. So I am letting you know I'm a Richmond supporter, but as the Commissioner for Victoria, I support all teams and all sports. So getting that out of the way. I'm really looking forward to hearing from our other two speakers and hearing what's happening with AFL Asia in the region as well, because it's one example of how we as a state and a country can use sport, both participation, fan engagement, but also for business engagement as well. So I will just take, I think, the first 10 minutes just to walk you through, as Brendan said, some of our learnings from engagement earlier this year at SportNXT. We'll just go to the next slide, which I think is what you were doing there, Brendan. Yeah, fantastic. And we were very fortunate, actually, to have Brendan with us down at SportNXT, so participating on behalf of Thailand, but with more than 34 international speakers and a number of from delegates from around the world. And SportNXT was a concept in the making for many years. COVID certainly impacted our ability to host sporting events, to welcome partners and visitors back to Victoria, and this conference was waiting, but well and truly was well received when we were able to host alongside the Grand Prix earlier this year. For those of you that don't know me, I started my role as the Victorian Commissioner in September 2020. So a global role and an international posting amid COVID and closed borders was no small challenge, but it was my second time, or is my second time, working for the Victorian government. And I joked that Melbourne was our first overseas posting from another city in Australia, because culturally quite different in my experience of living and working in other states, but also how important sport is to our lives, to our community, and to business in Victoria. And SportNXT was trying to wrap up all of that, what we do well in Victoria, but also trying to position the future of sports. So bringing together a range of different views on new areas of esports, of fan participation, of community engagement, of women in sports, of the role of sport in tech and in future leadership. So I'm giving a plug for something that happened earlier this year. Of course, we are hoping to be able to mount similar events and activities into the future. And I would say from Southeast Asia, we were delighted with the interest from a number of participants, obviously chambers, tech companies, government agencies focused on sport development and sport ecosystem as well. So anyone on the call today who's interested in connecting either for that event or otherwise, we do want to hear from you. Let me just focus a little bit. I thought we can start at the broader level of sports ecosystem and the opportunities if we think of infrastructure or innovation or tech or education. But for today's conversation, and actually given the opportunities that we're seeing specifically out of Thailand at the moment, I am going to focus quite a bit on sports tech and the opportunity as it relates to Southeast Asia. So I'll just go to the next slide very quickly. For some of you, particularly who might be connected with Victoria already or our sports tech sector already, this may not be new, but I just wanted to focus on the opportunity and where we see points for collaboration and investment. So we are seeing, and here in Singapore as well, opportunities for Australia and Victoria as a test bed for new sports tech products, and connecting not only with users and high penetration of sport in our community, but also with our universities with their R&D capability, and then also equally with an industry which is really made for export. So whilst we are creating and leading on a number of sports tech innovations, we also know that, and I'll share some data later on, that most of our companies in this sports tech space are born global, if you like, from the very outset are seeking to create value, customers and opportunities in a global market. So if I go to the next slide, and it's a very welcome platform that we are able to use Victoria's hallmark events as part of our business engagement in the region. So myself, along with our other commissioners, trade teams and colleagues from Austrade as well, are able to maximise these events for business engagement. So not just for participation, but for bringing key partners or investors to Victoria to experience our sporting culture, but also to advance our business objectives. And it's here just as a small line, but we are very excited about 2026, Victoria 2026, and the opportunity to host the Commonwealth Games in a very unique way, which will be the first time delivered in a regional setting with the cities of Ballarat, Bendigo, Gippsland and Geelong all hosting and supporting that engagement. I'm coming to you today from a Commonwealth country here in Singapore and our colleagues in Malaysia as well, but we see this opportunity as much bigger than just the Games itself, and have really set ourselves a target to accelerate sports engagement in Southeast Asia and make the most of these next 4 years with a focus hopefully on a range of business programs, opportunities for inbound and outbound delegations, and further connection into developing the sports ecosystem in Southeast Asia as well. I have quite a few slides, so Brendan, I might skip the next one because I will share it. We'll share the slide deck afterwards. I just wanted to focus on this tech ecosystem, which of course the ecosystem requires the intersection of a lot of different players and entities, and this slide is really just showing our focus on sports tech, and noting that we can say unequivocally that Victoria is the home of sports tech, and it's a vertical that we are investing in and that we are committed to. So with the top 120 sports tech companies in Australia. 46 of them are already based in Victoria and are contributing to more than 10,000 local jobs. From this region, we are focused on new tech, new talent, and new ideas that might also choose to call Victoria home or to tap into our hubs and our ecosystem. And having been here just recently last week here in Singapore, we are partnering with the Global Sports Innovation Centre powered by Microsoft, and I know they've just been in Victoria looking at some of these opportunities. If I go to the next slide, which is a bit more of a macro level and just focusing on in this broader ecosystem, the 7 key industry trends that we're seeing, and this will be very hard to read if you're on a phone or somewhere else, even a bit hard for me to read here, but the 7 really looking at the role of data analytics, AI and data, and how that is informing and driving investments and participation. The role of media, digital content, and I've just come back from the Philippines actually, so have been blown away by what's happening there with basketball and the investments that are being made there, and the media partnerships and opportunities arising, and those new business models as well around that. Wearables and performance enhancement, a big focus for many of our codes and national sporting associations, in an area where we do very well. Stadiums, always a big focus, and the most, I guess, tangible and visible investment in our sports infrastructure, and growing opportunities there for both consulting, export and partnership. Fan engagement, sponsorship assets, and as I mentioned earlier, esports. Singapore is just about to host, as I understand, one of the biggest esports competitions in the next week. We were just talking to Sports Singapore about that last week, and we think there is a significant opportunity for us, for our tech companies, also for our esports competitors to be part of this global growth opportunity. I had set myself my own timer, so I'm going to just close, I think, if I can move to that, the second last slide on world-class training and R&D capabilities. So I think one of the things that we do really well is work very closely with our universities, and I think this is quite an amazing statistic that 90% of all sports innovation, management and science universities are in Victoria, and we include the world's leading university in sports science. This is a wonderful asset. These are wonderful assets for us to build on, and particularly in Southeast Asia, to be able to maximise the insights, the research and the commercialisation that is coming from our universities. I think I'll leave it there. I'm very happy to take some more questions at the end, or touch on some other specific examples, but my intent was just to whet your appetite about what we're seeing. I should have started, but I'll finish with our role and my role as the Commissioner. I oversee a team here in Southeast Asia with offices in Vietnam, Singapore, Malaysia and Indonesia. Thailand and the Philippines we support and serve through partnerships with AustCham and also the Australian government. And what success looks like for us is more Victorian companies choosing to prioritise export and trade with Southeast Asia, and more investment, tech and talent coming from Southeast Asia into Victoria. So I'll leave it there, hand it back to you, Brendan.
And thank you, Rebecca. That was good to relive the SportNXT conference for me, having been there myself. I'll touch on a bit of that at the end of the webinar, and we'll hand over to Simon Highfield now, the International Development Manager for AFL Asia. Simon, are you there?
Brendan, thanks for passing that on. Hopefully my video is working now and you can see my screen.
It's all good.
All good. Thanks, Rebecca. That was very insightful. I have heard nothing but good things about the SportNXT conference, and I know that Vic Global are leading the way, particularly in the sports sector in Asia. I'm coming to you from Wurundjeri country here today in Melbourne, Victoria. Very happy to be on the line. When Brendan asked me to present on AFL Asia, I was stoked. I do love what we do. I think the future of Australian football in Asia is really bright. So I'm hoping to keep this brief. Before we kick off, as Brendan touched on, my role, my title is the International Development Manager for the AFL. So I do look after markets in the US, Canada, and Europe, but my strong focus, my day-to-day focus is on Australian football in Asia. So really quickly, if we look at who or what is AFL Asia, hopefully this works. AFL Asia, essentially we're the representative body for Australian football in Asia. We've been trusted by the AFL to deliver programs, competitions and events across the continent that are focused on Australian football. As you can see there, we've done a lot of hard work on figuring out what our purpose is, what our mission is, but essentially we strive to be the leading international growth region for the AFL, essentially through progressing and sharing the game with everyone. As you can see there, despite, I guess, thoughts around AFL in Asia being solely focused on a couple of countries or a handful of countries, we're actually present in over 20 countries. The stats you can see on your screen reflect a COVID impacted year. Pre-COVID, we were, I guess, registering and delivering programs to over 15,000 participants year on year. So we're hoping that with COVID somewhat in the rear vision mirror, we can really rebound strongly and get back to those strong numbers. And kind of what's next for us is a way forward. We're not, I guess, sitting on our heels and happy with only seeing 15,000 people play the game. We've done a lot of hard work thinking through strategic plans to engage more communities into our game, be that through participation, be that through consumption, be that through any other kind of partnership. And the way we work is similar to the way the AFL works, and the AFL's values here in Australia are also reflected in Asia, and that's through playing to win, playing with passion, playing fair, and playing as one team. One way in which we do, I guess, want to grow the game and grow the game sustainably is through our development grants program. So the development grants program is a small grants funding scheme that AFL Asia delivers to our 20 clubs and organisations that affiliate with us. And I guess the overarching goal of the development grants program is to fund programs that explicitly target the development and participation of Australian football in local Asian communities. I don't think I can put it any better or any more summary than that. Some examples of the DGP in action, particularly in communities that may be of interest to this call, is in Indonesia, rolling out IndoKick, which is their version of AusKick, into schools and communities nationally. In Malaysia, we're looking to sanction Australian football with the Malaysian government, which will then open up doors for us to be able to deliver bowler kick in schools. In Singapore, the Singapore Sharks, that some people on the call may be aware of, are doing a fantastic job in delivering and developing their female talent pathway. And then finally in Thailand, and I'll let John talk to this a little bit later, but the guys in Bangkok specifically are doing a great job of delivering and developing Thai kick as a curriculum, as a school offering. And then hopefully at the start of next year, we'll be rolling out a high school competition in Bangkok for the first time. Moving on more pertinently, I suppose, to some of our upcoming activations, one of those being the Asian Championships, which is our premier event in Asia. It's a great opportunity not only to showcase Australian football and to showcase our best players and our best talent, but it's also to promote physical activity, promote community, and also a great opportunity for businesses to come in and network and communicate. This year, as it says there, it's going to be on the 22nd of October in Bangkok. So we certainly do encourage anyone on the call who's going to be in Bangkok for that weekend to come on down. And some of the three key pillars, I suppose, there on the right, kind of overarch what the AFL Asian Champs is all about. It's participation and talent, as I mentioned, but also a sense of building community, getting everyone involved in Australian football together on that weekend, and also to network both in a football perspective, but also a business perspective. Really briefly, that's kind of a quick wrap of who we're expecting and what we're expecting the Asian Champs to look like. As I said, so 10 countries with over 20 teams and hopefully in excess of 500 players with the borders as they are at the moment, I'd say they're opaque more than transparent. So we're still kind of figuring out what those final numbers look like, but we're hoping for a really good turnout. And then I guess pertinent to this call is what this relates to business and what impact the Asian Championships have on business and also AFL Asia and its revenue. So as it says there, it's kind of one of our many opportunities to partner with AFL Asia. What the event does is it allows an opportunity to communicate with other partners, but also a great opportunity to showcase your business. We've got live streaming, we've got a lot of virtual activations. We'll hopefully have a lot of media coverage at the event as well. And as I said, it's going to be shared with over 20 countries in Asia. So our breadth or our reach goes, much beyond, I guess, a handful of countries. And the way in which we've, I guess, identified revenue channels for our sport is, I guess, in 3 different channels. One of those is equipment and apparel. So essentially anything that's sport related, could be sports tech, it could be footballs, it could be uniforms. The other way is through people and consumption. So leveraging, I guess, our people, how they consume, how they conduct business, how they entertain themselves. And then the last one is that network and business. So leveraging AFL Asia and its community to lean into other people's businesses. We're a wide-ranging community full of expats and locals, and we've figured out ways in which to, I guess, leverage that to the best of its ability. I think that's it for me, Brendan. I'm happy to keep scrolling and get you to introduce John if you'd like.
Yes.
But I do encourage anyone, if you've got any questions about AFL Asia more broadly, but the Asian Championships, also to please get in touch, ask any questions, and get my contact details from Brendan at the end of this presentation.
Great, thanks, Simon. And we will move straight on to John, if you can help to keep scrolling. John Wellby is the president of the Thailand and Tigers Australian Football Club. He's also country manager of Crown Equipment. I'll just throw that in, John. Also a great supporter of AustCham. Thank you.
No, thanks, and great content so far. So thanks, Rebecca. I got a lot out of that, and thanks, Simon, for obviously we're working pretty closely together on what I'm about to present, which is the Asian Champs. So as an overview, we are booked in for Patna International School. Patna, without any form of bias, is the best playing surface available in Bangkok, and it should be an absolutely ripping day that we're planning for. And women's sport is growing fantastically across the region, particularly for us in Thailand. We're going to have more women's players soon, I think, than men's, the way that we're tracking. And then on the men's divisions, at the moment, we have a plan around 6 teams in Division 1, 4 in Division 2, and 4 in Division 3, which is where I'll be sinking myself in for the day. But again, that's all subject to change, because we still have a deadline in a couple of weeks for submissions. And as Simon said, the borders are still opaque at the moment. And so we are playing a lot by ear. Maybe go to the next screen if you can, Simon. Next slide, Simon. Yeah, okay. So what to expect, and I have written down some things there, but we have I guess, a bit of an ethos here with the Thailand Tigers, that we're really trying to set up a high standard, a very high bar. We want to present the best football tournament. This is the largest football tournament outside of Australia, and we want to do that every bit of justice. So anyone who is in and around Bangkok around the 22nd of October, we welcome everyone into the club. We welcome everyone into the ground, and we want to showcase what AFL is in Thailand. It is very much a fast format moving tournament. We're looking at 2 10-minute halves. Again, with those 4 divisions that we're running, it will be fast and furious football. But on the day, we'll have 2 full-size ovals, potentially a third, depending on numbers. We will be welcoming teams right across Asia, including what I've mentioned here, debutants Pakistan, who have promised to bring across a men's and women's team, and that is absolutely huge to see the work that Pakistan have been doing and getting them involved in Asian Champs for the first time. We'll have a fully catered venue, grandstands, shades, banners. We've just done the Asian Champs singlet as a souvenir on the day. Looks fantastic. I would expect that's going to be sold out very, very quickly. We also have what's called an all-Asian game, where we'll go and select the best Indigenous sides, players from across the teams, and we'll have a game around that as well as AusKick. With AusKick, like we did a few years ago, we'd like to also highlight the development of what we've done with the Thai kids and the Thai program, which Simon did touch on earlier. And again, we'll have a whole lot of different events on the day, but I can promise one thing: if you're looking for an Australian experience and you want to get the taste of AFL, this is the place to come. And like I said, we welcome everyone on the day to the event. Maybe next slide, Simon. And then I'd just like to use this because I think this is a very important platform to discuss the impact of AFL in Thailand. So Thailand, we talk about being the Thailand Tigers, but we're actually a registered NGO now under what's called the Thai AFL. So we are an association of a non-government organisation which has now been registered and recognised within the Thailand community. For the last 5 years, a lot of our efforts have been around volunteer programs, particularly working in partnership with an organisation called the Duan Prateep Foundation. And you can see some of these photos that I've put in around the slide highlight that. But basically, we sponsor a whole lot of kids who unfortunately come from a tougher demographic than most of us would ever want to experience. We give these kids scholarships to keep them in an educational background, where the temptation is to do what other kids have done traditionally, which is any way they can to try and earn cash after they hit the age of 15. So we're also putting in a whole lot of volunteer English lessons, but most importantly with these kids, we get them most importantly integrating them into that environment with the aim that these kids will be representing Thailand one day, and then helping us spread that to other demographics within those communities. We do a lot of this in alignment with AustCham, hence why we're on this call today. And AustCham and the businesses associated with AustCham are phenomenal with supporting us. That has then led on to us being an inaugural member of us through our volunteer membership. We've also developed an app which we're piloting under Thailand Tigers. But basically, this is an app that is for all NGOs through AustCham to be using for their members and their development. And where I'd like to probably leave this is, we're on a business community call. Our drive is all through volunteers and our sponsors. I do this as a volunteer base because it's something I'm very passionate about. And I think there's many great fits for business to be slotting in right on this. So thank you.
Thank you, John, and thank you, Simon, and thank you, Rebecca. We've gone a bit over time, so we haven't had any questions come in downstairs yet. If anyone does have any, they can throw them in now. But I just have a couple of questions. If Rebecca, Simon, and John can turn on your cameras and microphones, I'd like to direct the first question to Rebecca. So Rebecca, as you mentioned about SportNXT, I was fortunate enough to attend the conference, and it was amazing. It was really, the speaker lineup was world class. With particular interest in some sports. I was just fascinated the whole time. But what I'd really like to touch on is the Asian engagement, and specifically Southeast Asian engagement. There was a representative from Indonesia there who was a magnificent speaker and very interested in the opportunities there. But I personally sit here in Thailand, so we didn't have a Thailand rep there. So I was really fascinated and interested in the opportunities for Thailand, particularly around the learning opportunities and bringing the expertise over. So when we look at the Commonwealth Games 2026, how can Thailand tap into what's happening in Victoria for things like Southeast Asian Games? There was a surfing comp down in Phuket last week, and Australia leads the world in that. So what are the opportunities there for Thailand?
Absolutely. Thanks so much. Yes, we were very fortunate to have Minister Sandy Uno, who's the Minister for Creative Industries and Digital Economy, out of Indonesia. So I think really important actually that this isn't just about sport or looking for sports ministers or sports administrators who want to engage. It's about the broader role in society. So I think the biggest opportunity actually specifically for Southeast Asia is sports tech. And I think of Thailand. One of the latest deals that we've just secured out of Thailand, and you may have seen this, is with Translucia and Two Bulls around the metaverse. And I think the opportunity there in the metaverse or in Web 3.0 and how we're engaging, there's huge opportunity out of Southeast Asia. There's both interest from a commercial perspective, but also I think consumer demand, given how much digital penetration there is in the region. I think on those broader managing, hosting and engaging sporting events, absolutely. And I don't think people realise that, in most of our major program events, like the Australian Grand Prix, like tennis, AFL itself, NBL, as part of all of those organisations, there is a global outlook, and there are teams that are interested in engaging at a community or a capacity building level, but also in commercial terms as well, if the need arises. So for Thailand, I think definitely staying or focusing on the tech side. But also what I find with this is it's quite a niche opportunity, right? And so it's about identifying the specific opportunity and using our office, Austrade or the Chamber to find the right partner.
Great, thanks, Rebecca. And the Metaverse partnership announcement a few weeks ago was big news for the community here as well. So we really look forward to seeing how that progresses.
Thanks.
Moving over to Simon and John, just one question for you guys. Throughout your presentations, you touched on the development of the kids, Thai Kick specifically for us. John later talked about the Doom Pratik partnership and how company sponsors can get involved. I guess one thing I'd like to tie all that in together are the CSR opportunities for companies throughout Southeast Asia, but I'll speak specifically for Thailand. I know the work that the Thai Tigers do with Doom Pratik kids and the development of them. It is really amazing beyond football. What are the opportunities both for Thailand and throughout Southeast Asia for companies to really ramp up their CSR sponsorship and support through AFL Asia?
Do you want me to start, Simon, or okay? So from my point of view, obviously we at the Thailand Tigers would welcome any dialogue on that conversation. Where I would see some of the next steps going with that is probably more around how do we position a base for these kids, as avenues. We're giving an avenue around football, but obviously avenues around employment, around development, around education. I think there's a lot of other avenues to look at these kids, and I think this is very holistic for me that we're in these countries in privileged positions. Where a lot of these, kids are exposed to pretty non-privileged type environments. So I think anything that is linking that has potential. But again, a lot of these discussions, Brendan, they start with a discussion and the idea spawns in different directions. So the most important thing for me is let's, you know, I'm always open for discussion. I know Simon is as well, and spawn the ideas from there.
Yeah, and just further to that, John, I think you've nailed it. Yeah, when you're talking about CSR, we're really talking about sport as a vehicle for change and a vehicle for impact. You know, we're not talking specifically to Australian football, despite hopefully everyone on this call having Australian football as their favourite sport. But Australian football here is a vehicle for change. You know, it promotes health, it promotes physical activity, it promotes good nutrition, promotes purpose. And then, as John said, finding those advancements to employment, to furthering careers, to opportunities to potentially travel and represent your country at things like international cups and Asian championships. They're a bit of a cherry on top. But as John said, it's just got to really start with a conversation, be that in Thailand or be that in one of the, you know, many other countries that we're in across Asia. It all starts with a conversation and a bit of goodwill around how we're all in this to better the community, despite that, whatever community that is. Yeah.
Great, thanks, guys. And while we have Rebecca on the call, I might cheekily put in another possible pathway, potential scholarships back to Victorian education institutes as a long-term plan for what can be done. So since we're starting the conversation, I'll start the conversation on that one for a very long-term one. To our speakers, Rebecca, Simon and John, I could talk about both business and sport all day. Unfortunately, we've run out of time. I'd like to thank you for your time. This is a recording. We will be publishing both the recording and your presentations to the participants and to the AustCham members more broadly. So thank you for your time. Rebecca, good luck for Richmond tonight.
Thank you, yes.
And Simon and John, good luck for the Asian Champs. You know I'll be there as well.
Thanks, Brendan.
Fantastic. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Brendan.
And thanks to the audience. Thanks for joining us today. Enjoy the rest of your day.